I understand that Cardinal Tagle was named as one of the three presidents of the Synod of Bishops in October. What's the significance of this? And just a follow-up, a while ago, I know you mentioned Cardinal Tagle had a good reputation among other cardinals. You were in the last one day. But just to get it from you categorically, was he a runner-up in the conclave?
No, Cardinal Tagle is not the runner-up in the conclave. However, Cardinal Tagle turned a lot of heads in the conclave. He impressed a lot of people. Frankly, I think, look, I mean, the guy is still the fourth youngest cardinal of the Catholic Church, right? I think there were a lot of people who looked at, I think they felt, they got to Bergoglio in 5 ballots. So it was a consensus that formed very quickly. So there was no real horse race in this conclave to begin with. But I think a lot of guys who I've talked to, in confidence, would look at Tagle and say, could make a great pope, but not quite yet. Just a little bit too young, probably. Or the reverse of that logic would be, that guy's we'll have another bite at the apple. If we really want to take it serious and look at it, we'll have another opportunity. But let me say this about the Synod, because you asked what's the significance of him being named one of the 3 co-presidents. First, an obvious statement of trust and confidence from Pope Francis. Make no mistake, this Synod is not just another item on a checklist of things this Pope has to do. He believes this is profoundly important. Okay, he has spent an enormous amount of time tinkering with the mechanics of the Synod, first of all, to try to make it more collegial and participatory. So he's invested enormous personal resources. Francis has done something absolutely unprecedented for this Synod, which is, in the past, there's a body that's in charge of the Synod called the Council for the Synod, and they meet in an office building that's down the Via della Conciliazione, which is that broad street that leads away from St. Peter's Square, towards the Castel San Angelo. It's about halfway down. That council typically will have meetings, and then the president of the council will scuttle over to the Pope to give him a progress report. In this occasion, not once but twice, Francis has picked up his briefcase and walked down the Via della Conciliazione to go to these Senate council meetings himself. Which is utterly unheard, utterly unprecedented. No pope has ever done anything remotely like this, that he would walk out of the Vatican and join a meeting of bishops who were working on some specific project, which shows you how personally invested he is in this process. Honestly, I think if you were to ask Pope Francis, give us your list of your 3 most important things you're going to do in 2014, I suspect he would put this meeting of the Synod of Bishops on that list. So the fact that he would impart and trust the success of this enterprise to Tagle is an obvious sort of vote of confidence from the Pope. Now, secondly, it's also a statement about globality. He wanted an Asian to be in the mix. And third, I think it is also interesting that everybody knows that on one of the hot-button questions at this Synod, which is the issue of divorced and remarried Catholics, and whether or not they can be admitted to the sacraments. Tagle doesn't really have a track record on this question, because again, divorce is not legal in this country, so it doesn't occur here in exactly the same way anyway. But everybody knows that his instincts on most matters are fairly moderate. And I think it is also interesting that Francis wanted to make at least one of the 3 co-presidents of this Synod a moderate, because I think it's important to him that that voice be heard. In other words, it is another reflection that Francis wants robust debate. And the flip side of that is, it's also an indication that Francis is not preordaining the outcome of that debate. I think he genuinely wants the participants in the Synod to come in and kind of have it out, and then go back home and reflect for a year, and then come back in 2015 and have it out again. And I think he is genuinely